Welcome to Nightmare365.
This is the center of weirdness for the entire planet.
There's tons of unsolved mysteries out there. Witches still exist.
What about monsters?
Do you believe in ghosts?
Bigfoot is not out there.
Bigfoot is definitely out there. UFOs are real.
UFOs might be real.
Do you believe in conspiracies?
I consider myself a conspiracy theorist.
I want to believe in all these case files.
Trust no one. The government lies to you.
We're just two brothers exploring the unexplained, mysterious, and spookiness that lives among us. What's going on, all you mystery seekers? Thanks for tuning in. This is the center of weirdness known as Nightmare365 Radio. I'm Matt.
I'm Greg.
And today we're talking about...
Wah, wah, wah. Skinwalker Ranch.
I don't know why you do that. Should we have that as a drop?
Super fans. Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, thanks to all of our Patreons that continue to support us through this pandemic that's still going on.
Goddamn Rona.
It's fucking crazy. I did want to start off, do a recap because I know our boy Andrew.
Yeah, do a goddamn recap. Like and subscribe to YouTube.
Yes.
Don't hit the bell. You don't have to hit the bell.
Why don't you want people to hit the bell? That's notifications for the future
episodes. There's too many notifications.
All right, too many notifications. You don't want those emails.
Just subscribe.
Just subscribe.
We need to get that number up.
You want that number up.
We want that number up. Andrew, goddamn, got to call you out again. Okay.
Why do you got to pick up on our boy?
I'm not picking on him. I'm just saying.
You're picking on our boy.
He would kill people to get supplies. He just wants to form a partnership.
He would kill people
with somebody who has some supplies. So then together you're stronger, and then you go out and kill the people.
Yeah, it's like The Walking Dead. You form little communities.
That's it.
I'm all for that. Yeah, and I do think, after thinking about it, and I wouldn't say in the dumps on this, but I did say people are fucked up, fuck people, but really you do have to come together, and there's a lot of amazing people that have been stepping up.
Yeah, there has been a lot of companies too.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the best things that we can keep seeing. It's just people helping people, and I like it.
That's charity, people helping people.
True, it is charities, but it's also just people just being nice and humans. And I did want to mention April 26th, live on our YouTube channel at 2 o'clock, we are talking to Connie Willis from Blue Talk Radio.
Blue Talk Radio.
Also from... why do you want the... We definitely have to add that as a drop. Yeah, we'll be talking to her live on our YouTube channel April 26th. So make sure to really tune in for that and hit the bell for notifications for that, because then you can keep
subscribe. Goddamn subscribe,
yeah, subscribe, or check Nightmare365.com for all of that information, because right on the sidebar you'll see all the upcoming shows.
We get up to 500 subscribers. Maybe I'll just skinny dip in the ocean right now.
Skinny dip in the ocean?
Right now we'll film it. I'll maybe wear the goosebump mask.
No, you're not wearing the goosebump mask.
Why not? That would be awesome.
Because it's in the box. It's perfect.
I'll just jump off the pier.
I really got to get that as a drop. I don't have that one. All I have is Greg's drop.
The government lies to you.
Yeah, seriously. But I think that will be a good conversation with her, because she also is a host on Coast to Coast AM Radio.
Coast to Coast host.
Coast to Coast host for sure.
Host.
So we'll talking to her about Bigfoot, paranormal, cryptids, all that craziness that we get into, and that we'd like to talk here about ourselves. But if you have a story for us, before we get started, if you have any stories for us and you want to share with us, all of our contact information can be found on our website, which you know what it is if you're listening to the show. But give us a call, 732-660-8893. And today's a good one. I was actually on the fence with this one.
Why?
I never thought about it as one of those big, I don't know, paranormal mysteries until I started reading more into it. Area 51 jumps out at you. Mm-hmm. Even the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base jumps out at you because of all the mystery that, in the Air Force and everything that surrounds that. But there's a lot of stuff that goes on at Skinwalker Ranch that I was, I guess, in the dark to, or didn't really know. Mm-hmm. But now looking into it, I do have a different take on it than when anybody first said Skinwalker Ranch. It's all right, it's just a place in Utah. Mm-hmm. What is it? But I don't know. This one I think is going to be pretty good, and just jump right into this. I don't know. So we're opening up the Erie Vault today, talking about Skinwalker Ranch. And there's a lot of information that we could talk about this specific place.
Sure.
You know, I don't know what you had your thoughts in, like, really diving into on this one. I don't know, like, because we didn't talk beforehand of like what you really thought about this place in particular. And we did actually find out the new owner of Skinwalker Ranch. I remember there's a big mystery, and one of the
he took it over in 2016, so like 4 years.
Yeah, it was like a group when
it was
when
a shell
first came
corporation.
Out. Yeah, in Utah, it first came out, and then all of a sudden, I remember Jeremy Corbell again. The name comes up a lot, but he made a documentary on this.
Womp womp.
What's that?
Nothing.
You don't like him?
No.
I don't like him either. But he basically came out and said, like, oh, we know who the gentleman is who bought this, blah, blah, blah. He had all this information. And then I'm like, he never revealed it.
Because he probably doesn't know.
Well, he did in the end of his movie. But I watched it. I was like, this is garbage. This is no new information. And I really get upset with that stuff. And then the History Channel also has a show.
Skinwalker Ranch.
Right. The Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch.
Which they didn't really, the first episode didn't really do too much.
No, it didn't.
I mean, they have to set it up anyways, but I don't know. I say we get into like kind of like the history of like the place.
Oh, for sure. So I have a bunch of different articles that we'll share with this, and I'll link them up in the show notes. Anytime I link anything up in the show notes, I'll let we know that, all right, this article or this piece of information will be linked up. But yeah, there's plenty of stuff to dive into. So Skinwalker Ranch, also known as Sherman Ranch.
Yeah, because Terry and Gwen Sherman, right?
Right, when they owned the property for the time being. And there's a lot of stories associated with them. A lot of popular stories associated with them was with the wolf.
Yeah, well, when they bought the place, they only lived it, for 2 years. They lived at the place. But prior to that, like, it was from the 1950s known to locals as like a UFO paranormal hotbed.
Yeah, this one it was also dubbed as the UFO Ranch.
Yeah. And
if you really look at a lot of the stuff that happens here on the ranch, there's vanishing. There's mutilations of cattle.
Mutilations.
What's that from?
The Burbs.
All right.
The incubus. The succubus.
Yeah, they have sightings of unidentified flying objects, orbs, large animals with piercing red eyes that they say, very menacing. So is that like a wolf story that we can get into with the Shermans that live there? There was also invisible objects emanating from like the different areas on the property, especially the ridgeline. The ridgeline is one of those things where a lot of people say this is like where the Skinwalker actually walks. It's in the direct path, and this is why it's so mysterious and there's so much activity that goes on there. I even heard accounts.
It's 500 acres. Let's put that in perspective.
Yeah, I also heard in accounts too that this place also people have seen Bigfoot, ghosts, other paranormal activities. The list goes on. I mean, you could really look at this in different articles that you could find here. And one of the things I definitely want to talk about, which are good friends at Jack-o'-lantern Press.
Pick.
Yeah, this is cryptids at fandom.com. And
like Skinwalker comes from the Navajo Indians.
Yeah.
And it means, what does it mean, ghost or...
So it's basically a transformation. So the Skinwalkers, yes, this is a person with supernatural abilities that turn into creatures he or she desires.
That'll be awesome.
And they have the ability to transform. Legend sometimes requires that the Skinwalker wears a pelt of animal skin. And in many cases, you could become a Skinwalker by getting bit or...
Spider-Man.
Right. Or scratched, they said. Or, really when you come in contact with a Skinwalker, if it really... I wouldn't want to say it devours you, but it does. This one is known to devour you, and then you turn into the Skinwalker sometimes.
It's like Teen Wolf with Michael J. Fox. He turns into the wolf.
But much scarier, because this Skinwalker is known to just be like one of the deadliest cryptids out there. And it's known to just mangle, eat just devour even some of the cattle mutilations that happened on the property supposedly.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, when the Shermans lived there, they said in the 2 years that they lived there, they lost about 20% of their cattle to cattle mutilations. But that also, like, I would want to know, like, the surrounding areas.
Right? Did it die of natural causes? And
No, like even like the mutilations, like in the natural, like in the surrounding areas, was there an animal or predator that does it?
Like Bigfoot.
Yeah, could be Bigfoot. I mean, maybe there's a vast cave system.
I always talked about the cave systems. It's real. Yeah, that one of the things that really struck me about this case file 64 that we're talking about today, the Skinwalker Ranch,
womp, womp, womp,
was the Navajo. The Navajo played a big part in it. And one of the things that gets me are all these legends that we talk about derived from the Native Americans that lived here. Like, you could even, equate this to Bigfoot.
Sure.
You could even equate to, just a lot of, not just a skinwalker, but just an array of cryptids that lived here. Like sea creatures. The list goes on for that too as well. But the Navajo have documented stories about the Skinwalker, and that's really where the name comes from. You could dub this as the Sherman Ranch, the UFO Ranch. There's a lot of different names that people associate with
T
this.
Ranch,
the Bigelow, Ranch. Yeah, and that's another big component to this. Robert Bigelow, he's an American businessman. He owns a bunch of hotels.
Was it Caldwell or Caldwell Bankers?
I think he's a part of that, yeah.
He was, yeah. He bought the ranch, in 1994 for $200,000?
Yeah, I believe it was in 96.
96 for $200,000. And he sold it for $4.6 million.
To Brandon Frugal.
Yeah.
Fugal.
Fugal.
Yeah, and
Fugale.
He's the actual owner now today. And if you really want to get into it, which we'll talk more about on our Patreon episode. So if you like what you're hearing here, head over to our Patreon and check that out, because we'll be doing an extended podcast of the show.
Goddamn Fox Mulder it.
Fox Mulder. Yeah, if you're a Fox Mulder or a higher tier, you get to hear all this shit.
I'm just saying.
But Robert Bigelow does play a big part in this, and I think I always wanted to focus on him because he's an interesting character too. He had, Bigelow Aerospace, and there's a lot of information just pertaining to him about his aerospace company.
Well, first he set up like the UFO research group, and then it got switched over to that, and it had a $22 million budget a year to investigate the paranormal at the ranch.
Yeah, he did, and he had the whole thing of NIDS too. So he had his Bigelow Aerospace. I mean, it's interesting the connections that this gentleman had into just the government itself. And a lot of people speculate that when he bought the ranch, he was interested into the space and then also the paranormal activity that was going on here.
Sure.
And a lot of people speculate that he was working with the government to do some secret projects, but then he was also working with the government, almost as you could say, like a Project Blue Book type thing, where he was help investigating the paranormal activities and the sightings that were actually going on here. The only thing that I don't really like about this time, and it's not really in the information age because of the time that he did own it, but there's not a lot of videos, not a lot of pictures that circulated about this.
No.
There's not as much information as I would like. Yeah, and he also had the National Institute of Discovery Science. That's what he set up from 1995 to 2004. Robert Bigelow, and they were doing an advanced, serious study of various fringe science and paranormal topics, mostly notably the UFOlogy on, and around Skinwalker Ranch. And I don't think we mentioned it, but Skinwalker Ranch is located in Utah, at the Ballard, Utah. It's right southeast of Ballard, Utah. I did want to pull up a picture of a map of like Skinwalker Ranch and just see what else is behind, around it, because I did watch a video on YouTube of Missing 401.
Yeah.
David Paulides, where he talked about it, and he talked about the body of water that's really close to it.
Yeah, there's a big...
He did say it was about a mile away. But on that, I was just like, all right, I definitely want to see more. And one of the actually websites that I'm definitely going to link up in the show notes, which I think it has a lot of great information and resources, is skinwalkerranch.org. And you can go there. They have different forums, they have maps, they have different files. So you can listen to like reports, podcasts, web links, videos. They have tons of research. And another place, like really where to start, is they have the players, as they call, who is involved in Skinwalker Ranch. And I mean, to really get into all these people and all this information, there's just so much.
Yeah,
there's just so many people. Like Kelleher is a big name that you always hear a lot during, the 90s about this place. And then also another one is George Knapp.
Yeah.
His name always constantly comes up when it's out west in like Area 51, Skinwalker Ranch. You always find a lot of information about him on there. But if you want to really dive into the Skinwalker Ranch history, phenomenon, all the reports, as much information as you can, this is a great resource that they have too.
The one thing I was going to say about like the ranch itself is when the Shermans bought it, was that they said there was deadbolts inside and outside on the windows. There was deadbolts on like the doors, some of the doors, and then there was like a big concrete pad. Like think of like a concrete pad that you would bolt like chains to hold like a big animal. So like that kind of like struck me as kind of odd, just because of the fact that, let's hypothetically say like in the 40s, 50s, 60s, that the government or whoever was doing experiments, on things like the CIA or something like that.
Right.
That's the only reason I can think of that you would kind of have that.
Well, yeah, I mean, they placated it. I did look up information on that because I was curious to see, all right, what's going on.
Sure.
If this is true. It was mostly secondhand articles
that
I found. I don't know, because there is a lot in the actual, what I told you, skinwalkerranch.org. And there's a lot of stories. Most of those stories are in there. You could see that. Like there's UFO sightings dating back to 1944. There's different things in the 70s, 80s, and then also in the mid-90s. There's a lot of ex-military that were around during Bigelow's time in here. And then they also have a timeline of the ranch. So you could see, when it was bought, the tribes that lived there, like the Utes, the Ute tribe that located there, from when they were kind of pushed out west. And then they said that was really where they started. And the Navajo said, like, this is the path of the Skinwalker. So it was like put on a curse because of some of the stuff that was going on between the government and the different tribes.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Why not?
I don't know. Like, we kicked them out of everything, every land. Now they just have casinos.
Yeah, but what does that have to do with curses?
Nothing. Be like, wouldn't everything be cursed then?
Well, there is. Don't you believe that, like, sacred lands, like in certain things where people put on curses, like Amityville, people think that was a cursed, site and land.
No.
Why does certain places have different activities? So then you don't believe in Skinwalker Ranch?
I don't, no.
Really?
No.
So you don't believe any of the activities that people report or sightings and
no,
videos? No,
I do believe that, but I think it's like some experiments that are going on, or like something that we have no idea about. Yeah. I don't believe in cursed land. No, I think it's like some land holds energy more than others probably. But no, I don't believe in the curses.
Yeah, they do say that with like the different quartz
and
things like that hold the energy, or maybe spikes. But then there's also a good theory too that there's different portals, I guess you would say, on the Earth itself.
Yeah, I heard that.
That open up like the time and space. I did hear about that with even Loch Ness and Champ. Like there's some type of like energy that's right here in this certain body of water that kind of opens up. Maybe it opens up time, like some type of time wraith or some type of portal from another dimension or from the past.
I don't know about that.
So do you think that has anything to do with Skinwalker Ranch? Like this is a hot spot where stuff happens?
No.
And it just opens up?
No, I think it's just experiments and everything like that.
Well, another good resource too, and I'll link this one up in the show notes. This is from an article, but this comes from theblackvault.com, and this is the gentleman who really goes into the Freedom of Information Acts and try to find as much stuff as possible that pertains to some of these programs. You know, that when it was under Bigelow's aerospace, you know, the BASS, and then also, which I found very interesting, was it was a part of the ATIP program.
Yeah.
So that was like the aerial phenomena, you know, where they looked into UFOs. Could this have been another Project Blue Book where they dove in, like Bigelow was part of
100%, yeah.
almost like a scientist working with the government to try to explain and maybe use some of the technologies that they're seeing or witnessing to help with the government?
That, or it could be like they hired an outside company to like investigate and build and research
and this
some
would be
of the
a great
shit that
place
they
for
had.
it.
Yeah.
This would be a really great place for it. And yeah, if you want to read most of these, you know, documents, some of them go back as, you know, early as 2002, but you could, I mean, there's plenty of pages. I didn't flip through them all. I read a bunch of them, but there's like 500 something pages here, 600 pages here, you know, a bunch of 600 pages, 700 and something, you know, pages of just information pertaining to Bigelow that was released. In a lot of the articles, there's a lot of stuff that is blacked out, but then also you could tell how much was going on, and like the amount of like UFO, you know, interaction with some of these emails and documents that were sent back and forth to different personnels is really interesting. And then you can kind of see where it comes from, like the FAA and a bunch of different, you know, other organizations that they had. So this is a great resource if you really, you know, like to read and you want to read some of the old documents and emails that was, you know, being exchanged from Bigelow, you know, that kind of NIDS, as they call it, you know, the new science of discoveries science, and then also his BASS, you know, program, the aerospace, and then the ATIP program. The ATIP, you know, was mentioned a lot, which is the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing I think we should really focus on too, because this program in itself is really interesting.
Well, yeah, if you go back and look at skinwalkerranch.org,
yeah,
go look at the players, right?
Yeah.
There's a guy, keep going, that guy, Luis Elizondo, he was like the head of like the ATIP program in the Pentagon for like 22 years or 20 years.
Yeah, and what does this say? He was part of the To the Stars Academy, but despite most likely people take, he has 22 years of experience in the DOD, Department of Defense. Mm-hmm. And if he was part of this program...
Yeah, he was part of the ATIP program.
And we could link the ATIP program with Robert Bigelow. That's pretty big.
Sure.
You know, so that does say a lot about just this place in Skinwalker Ranch, you know, what it is.
I mean, it could be just another Area 51, because everyone found out about Area 51, so why not, you know, move it somewhere?
Right. After, like, the, you know, in the mid-2000s, they're like, all right, we did all we could. We researched the heck out of this place, and then, you know, it's time to move on.
Sure.
But from, you know, from what we see, too, I'm going to look this up, but from what we see as far as, like, Google, you know, like on Google Maps of what this place looks like, there doesn't look like anything is really here.
No, that's a perfect place.
Yeah, but even where would they bring in... I'm trying to think, what would they bring in as far as like equipment? You know, like you think of Area 51, there's a lot of different bases and a lot of different, what can I say? It looks like a military base. Looks like there's stuff going on. At Skinwalker Ranch, it just pretty much looks like nothingness.
Yeah, but it could be all underground. You have no idea.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like we have no evidence of that, though. There's just like a driveway and a couple homesteads.
Yep. And
they said there's like 3 homesteads on the property. 2 are pretty much in disrepair. Mm-hmm. And that's where they say a lot of the activity comes. And they do say, which now that you said that, if it really is underground, they did mention...
Seismic, yeah.
Well, just like the different activity that goes on there, but they say don't dig. There was a lot of instances where people over the years, even like previous homeowners, say do not dig here. Is that because there is something underground that they don't want people to find?
Sure, there is.
Is it because like if you dig, you disrupt whatever's going on there, like activity, and it kind of like pops out?
Well, like I think like a lot of the bases are moving underground or anything like that, just because of the fact that like satellites, you can pull up Google Earth, Google Maps, fly a drone overhead now and see what's going on. So why not move the base underneath,
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, I just wanted to get like a topography of like what really goes on at Skinwalker Ranch. I mean, you could see there's like a ridge line. I mean, it just looks like a big, empty nothingness.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a body of water pretty close there, which I definitely wanted to look at because they said, in David Paulides' interview of Skinwalker Ranch where he did, everybody always talks about the Sherman incident where the Shermans, encountered this wolf-like creature that came pretty close to them that didn't seem afraid of it, and then they shot it.
Yeah, they shot it 6 times and it ran off. It didn't seem like it was affected by a bullet.
Right.
But how do you know you hit it? So, like, you could shoot a gun at somebody and miss it.
I know, but they said this thing was unaffected, even like by the gunshot. So it's weird, and that story gets regurgitated over and over again in a lot of different podcasts, a lot of different episodes. But one of the things that David Paulides talked about was the body of water, and a lot of these activities or missing cases or just weird stuff that goes on is always equated to or by a body of water.
Sure.
So there is a body of water that's pretty close to it. I don't know. What is this? This is just like a reservoir that it seemed. So it's not like a big body of water, I guess, but it's definitely, a body of water that could explain some things or not.
Yeah, and then the Shermans also said they saw a UFO the size of 2 football fields over their property, a lot of lights, a lot of strange noises and things like that, but who knows?
I mean, the stories that go on and on, like we could look at the 1944 UFO sighting on Skinwalker Ranch right during World War II. So was this something that was like a government, project that they're working on and people saw this? Because in towns surrounding this area too, people talk about seeing UFOs all the time.
Well, yeah, same with around Area 51 and everything like that.
Yeah, this one definitely opens up a lot of minds, but that's why I said I wasn't really intrigued about this to begin with, but then looking at some of the stories and the accounts, but then again, you're only going on information of stories that were passed down by the Shermans.
Sure.
Or somebody told.
And they only lived there for 2 years, so. And then they abandoned the property.
I want to look at that because I've heard different stories on the Shermans when they aren't, own the property, because it was owned, and everybody talks about the Shermans, but there was also the Myers family that did live there.
Well, yeah, they settled it.
Not Michael Myers, but the Myers. Yeah, I was trying to, let's see, what does this one have? Because I thought they lived there longer. Do you see it on this website?
No, I don't.
When they bought the property. So that's when they settled it. This one doesn't really have it. I would like to know exactly the dates that they did own the property. So the Shermans and their children moved themselves into the cattle ranch of 480 acres in 1994. So yeah, I guess it was, because in 95, 96, supposedly Robert Bigelow buys it.
So
in 96. So yeah, 2 years from this website, if that's what you go on. I thought it was actually longer, but
so do you think Robert Bigelow was doing an experiment on these people? See how people would react to things.
Oh, so you're talking about LSD, type of CIA experiments?
Well, not only that, but let's say we could subject them to cow mutilation, lights, voices,
and see how they react.
See how people react to it.
I don't know if he would do that, and I'm curious. I would like to talk to him personally, and say all right, what made you buy this property? Was it because of its location? Was it because of you heard stories? I mean, that's almost like buying property of just hearing one person's story about a house.
It's like you buying the Spy House.
Yeah, but there's different accounts over the years. It's not like one family owned that and just said, all right, there's ghost here.
Yeah, local stories go back to 1940s and 50s.
Well, yeah, they even go back to the early 1900s and then also the 1800s. In 1911, there's supposedly something that, there's a story that goes, of strange occurrences that happened there. Even in 1990 or 1905.
Look up that fort.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right by the water.
Yeah.
Let's see. How do you say that? Pronounce that.
I don't even know, man.
So yeah, this Fort Duchesne.
Maybe.
I guess that's how you would pronounce it. Fort Duchesne.
Yeah, the United States Army.
So the army was there.
It closed down in 1912, but did it really close down?
And that's really close to where that body of water was, where the reservoir that we talked about here on the Bigelow Ranch. This was also, yeah, it's really close to this ranch.
See, I wonder what they did there.
Duchesne. This Fort Duchesne is really, really close to where that is. So yeah, if it was active, you know, as long as it was from, when was it active?
1886 to 1912.
So, and there is accounts before that in the articles just saying, all right, strange stuff was going on here.
But yeah, so I wonder if, you know, they were doing experiments.
Yeah.
Or anything like that.
So maybe that was it. Maybe like the billionaire Robert Bigelow buys Skinwalker Ranch because he has a deal with the government or the army or the different aerospace programs and says, all right, we had this going on. We can't actually do this anymore as the army. We can't, you know, say we're spending all this money on research. So that could be a good thing where they do say, all right, Robert Bigelow, we're going to give you an X amount of dollars to research, you know, different phenomenon, but also you're going to help us work on some
100%.
Some aerospace kind of crafts. But then that always begs the question because we're looking at this from the future, you know, so we could see, you know, some results, but we don't know any of the results that happen with Robert Bigelow.
He never said anything. Only said like there was strange UFO activity.
But I'm also just trying to say like there's no crafts that came out of this that we know of.
No.
You know, like Robert Bigelow didn't have, I don't know, what do you want to say? Like I don't know, some type of aerospace spaceship that they sent to outer space. I don't know. I'm just trying to think because I
mean,
can't.
You don't know that.
Yeah, we don't. And that's the thing. Like, we just don't know, you know, that it was brought there because then there is funding. And there was an article recently too that most of his company, I guess NIDS or, you know, BASS, because it was replaced by NIDS was replaced by BASS, which is the Bigelow Aerospace Advanced Space Studies, that went not, I wouldn't say bankrupt, but they did lay off a lot of people during this corona pandemic.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they did lose a lot of funding from the government or...
Well, they had $22 million appropriated per year to them.
Which is crazy. So
to
what
investigate. Harry Reid, the senator, gave it to him.
So what the hell were they investing? Like, give me $2 million or $20 million just to go...
$22 million.
To go investigate UFOs. I'll sit there at the ranch, just watch UFOs and report back on like what. See, that makes me think too, like what the hell's really going on.
They're building something. They're doing stuff. They're reverse engineering things.
And it's definitely underground because those little shacks, they're like a ranch style house.
You probably go into them and go underneath.
And they did kind of tease that there is a cave on the property in the History Channel's Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch. That's what it is called, right? I just want to make sure.
Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah, the Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. Which airs every Tuesday at 10 p.m.
Right after Oak Island.
Do you still watch that show?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, some of the players are a little douchey on there.
Brandon Fuga.
I mean, they show him
Travis
in
Taylor.
His, like, Lamborghini and all that stuff.
I have a doctorate in this, and this. I'm an investigator.
See, I do think this all goes back to stuff. I don't want to say like, you know, when we talked about our episodes, all right, who's credible? Is it just like the regular witness or like is a cop credible because of his trained, you know, profession?
You don't know.
But I'm saying, like, do we equate a lot of what the Native American legends say?
No.
Because so you don't believe in any of that?
Not really.
What about like ancient aliens? Some of the ancients, you know, from around the world.
Some of that stuff I do.
Like different cultures talk about
the same exact thing.
Like Bigfoots, right?
Yeah.
Like all of them talk about that.
I think Bigfoots are real. I think UFOs are real because they all like around the globe.
Yeah.
If you look at ancient civilizations, they all depict that in like the cave drawings or any drawings like that. So yes, do I believe that there was probably like a wolf-like animal that could probably like not shapeshift, but maybe walk on like two legs and then run on like four legs? Yes. Like, this is where, like, you have to break down, like, where the legends start and, like, how they come about.
Well, that's one of my things, too. It does the Native American folklore get passed on through generations to different cultures, to different people, and then the stories kind of change and take shape of themselves? Or are these really stuff that they witnessed? You know, were they doing some psychedelic drugs that they did hallucinate?
I'm sure they did, yes, because they didn't know back then.
Your spirit animal is, you know, like the wolf.
Well, like, look back then, like, what? In, like, Greek mythology, like, they thought, like, you know, like, the god of thunder, the god of lightning, you know, shit like that. So...
How do we know that's not true?
That's not true, dude.
Why not?
Sorry, there's none. Just like the moon is supposedly hollow.
Yeah, but how can you say that for certain? Because we don't know. Like, I'm just saying that's
scientifically, you know how thunder and lightning is created.
I understand, but you know how, like, all right, why does some people believe in Bigfoot but not skinwalkers? Like, they're both pretty much...
No, because it's totally different.
But you know what I'm saying?
No, I don't.
Why not?
Bigfoot's a creature.
Okay, so Loch Ness.
Skinwalker is...
How do we know it's not a creature? That's like a disformed creature or something.
It could be, but you're, like, going off of the tale... It's a person that desires to be whatever and turns into that. That's not possible.
Maybe that's what happens when we die.
100% not possible.
All right, what about, like, Bigfoot and Loch Ness?
They're both creatures.
Right.
It's totally different.
But I'm just saying, like...
That's not a person thinking, I'm going to be a Loch Ness monster.
No, but what happens when we die? Do we know?
You go in the ground.
That's it?
You turn to dirt.
That's it?
Yeah.
It's cut and dry with Greg.
Just saying.
That's why you're the skeptical sidekick.
That's it. Change my mind.
I don't have to change your mind.
I'm going to hold up a sign. Coronavirus started in China. Change my mind.
Yes. I mean, I'm not here to change anybody's mind. I'm just trying to expand my mind and just say, like, all right, I think about that all the time. Like, I could believe in Bigfoot. I could believe in Loch Ness. But then when you throw out some of the other things, like, say, like a Wendigo, or like a skinwalker, and it's like, all right, I don't believe that.
But it could be a deformed wolf. Yes, that's a creature.
Ooh, so you believe in the skinwalkers?
I'm not saying this. No, I'm not saying
the government lies to you.
I'm not saying, you know, it's a person that turns into a wolf. No.
Right. So
I want to believe.
I want to believe, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I understand your point, and I understand where you're coming from, and it's not like, you know, these Native Americans knew everything or predicted the future or got everything right as far as some of these legends. They all start somewhere, but there's not a book that you could say, all right, in 2000.
It could be a campfire that somebody made up.
It could be. It's not saying, like, but I would love everything to be, you know,
just like Candyman.
Candyman's real.
He's not real.
I experienced it firsthand. In the late 90s.
It's just because a black guy selling candy going door to door.
That's a creepy story.
That is, but that's not a real Candyman.
How do you know? It just
happens to be a very, very odd coincidence.
That's a little too odd.
I don't know about that.
That's a crazy story.
Wah, wah, wah.
That's been on our previous episodes, right?
We'll give that to the Patreons after this.
All right, we'll talk about the Candyman. I'll definitely talk about the Candyman story in depth. I'll do that one. I'll record it. It's a good one. Maybe I'll have to have our boy Kevin on, who experienced it with me. After all these years, I want to see if I remember it the same way he did. I'd be curious to, like, talk to him.
You should have his mom on, too.
I don't know if she would remember that.
What the fuck?
Yeah, she was pissed at us that day. Right, she's like, no more scary movies for you guys. I'm not renting any more scary movies for you guys.
West Coast Video.
Yeah, I forget where we rented it.
Blockbuster?
It might have been Blockbuster. I think it was during
Sam
that
Goody?
time. Whenever Candyman came out. So whenever that came out.
Was it 1992?
Yeah, so then you figure, was it like a year or two later? So it's probably like 93, 94 when it first came out on VHS. And then we watched it. So, yeah, that's an interesting story. But see, all stories originate somewhere. So in the early 90s, I wish there was like a book that said, like, all right, skinwalkers originated here. And this story was told by Matt Douglas, you know, at this time, which I know it's never that cut and dry. And all these legends you kind of have to sift through.
Well, if you ever get that time machine, go back in time and look at this shit.
Yeah, but you can't pinpoint a time to really go in there.
Just go back on Skinwalker Ranch.
We don't have a specific date, though.
Doesn't matter.
Just go there for a week.
Yep.
Well, that's like when Joe Rogan questioned everything. They went to Skinwalker Ranch and they spend like, what, an hour there?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, all right, nothing happened. It's like, all right, cool. You spent an hour. You know, like, what did you think was going to happen? Like, everything's going to come out? That's why, like, certain shows...
You start digging a hole.
Well, that's why...
As deep as you go.
And see if you hit a base.
An hour.
Imagine you hit, you know, like, we're digging there, and then all of a sudden you just hit, like, a wall.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what the fuck?
There you go, man.
But I feel like military would come out, you know, during that and be like, all right, get the hell out of here.
But then I would film it. I'll be like, why?
They'd be like, this is private property.
I'll be like, no, it isn't. We got permission.
From who?
Bigelow.
Bigelow doesn't own this anymore.
Bigelow.
You would have to talk to Brandon.
I'll just start pouring tea in.
Tea?
Yeah, Bigelow tea.
Because he owns Bigelow tea.
You don't know that.
We do know that.
100% you don't know.
We could look that up right now. You talking about scientific information. We could look up Bigelow tea, where it comes from,
Robert
who makes it.
T. Bigelow.
Robert T. Bigelow.
That's where they got the T. It was his middle name, Thomas T.
Oh my God.
Robert T. Biggs.
Yeah, I would love to, you know, just pick his brain a little bit more and see some of the information that he had or stuff that's withheld.
We should get
that's in
Josh
the
Gates
government.
on the show.
Why do you love him so much?
He's a good guy.
What do you mean he's a good guy? Do you know him?
I should know him.
Why?
I watch all his shows.
I watch everything. Everything that he comes out with, I watch.
That's it.
How many shows does he have?
He had 4 of them.
4 shows?
Yeah.
Do they all not do well and they got canceled and he just made
No,
it
the one's
different?
still going. Expedition Unknown.
Oh, yeah, you talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
I really am digging In Search of Monsters on the Travel Channel.
Haven't watched that yet.
I think that's better than, what was it, True Terror with Robert Englund.
Never saw that one either.
Yeah, it's kind of like a mix of unsolved mysteries and like horror stories, but you know, yeah, definitely In Search of Monsters is a lot better. So, Skinwalkers you don't believe in. Skinwalker Ranch you don't think anything happens.
I probably 100% shit happens, but
UFOs.
it's probably, you know, them investigating shit or reverse engineering stuff, and you know, granted, maybe there is paranormal activity that goes on there, but
yeah, there was one of the informations too. I wanted to read from. This is from a U.S. Army Colonel, John Alexander, who categorized like NIDS and like their effort of you know, studying the unexplained phenomena, UFO sightings. He said they are using hard data, using standard scientific approach. However, the investigations admitted to difficulty obtaining evidence that coincide with a lot of scientific publications.
sure,
So what does that mean?
that they
Does
can't explain it through scientific means.
Yeah, but it's all right. So what are you finding? How come they can't, you know, like just give out that information? Like, all right, we saw this craft that
Only
went
115.
3,000 miles an hour, and we can't explain that. Like, how do we? And that's another thing when you see and you hear stuff from Project Blue Book, Project Grudge, and just some of the accounts of historical information on UFOs, and you hear them going like so fast. And if we did have alien technology, if they were working on this stuff at Skinwalker Ranch,
Mm-hmm.
how come we don't have anything that comes even close to that?
Why should we?
We've been studying this
Because,
for,
like, look at Nikola Tesla back in the day. Free energy,
ooh, I wish we did. Free internet.
right? Free energy.
Free internet for all.
He was working on that, and they never came out with it, and he had it back then.
Yeah,
Why? Because it would change the power structure of society.
Yeah, I don't know how.
All the people that were in power we wouldn't have to depend on any of them.
I mean, this is just perfect example too. What's going on with this pandemic, that we shouldn't depend on any kind of government official.
Correct.
Like, just think about like the news that we just had. What was it? A couple days ago, that said they withheld like telling people. Like the CDC said we weren't telling people to wear masks
Mhm.
all the time
Sure.
because they were afraid they would panic people into buying up all the masks, and they wouldn't.
Which
have
already
it.
happened anyway.
Right, but they didn't tell people. But now they're telling people. They changed their tune
To wear cloth masks.
to wear masks. You have to wear a mask everywhere you go now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you guys are fucking dicks. So you waited what, 3 weeks, almost a month, and now you're saying,
Well,
like,
look at the World Health Organization, right? They said, don't worry, this can't be transmitted through human to human
Yeah, I did
back
see
in
reports.
December or November. Well, they fucking lied to you.
And that's the thing. Like, I don't think we should. We should what?
The government lies to you. The government lies to you. The government lies to you.
We get it, Greg. The
I'm just
government
saying.
does lie to you. But I understand that that's my whole point. Like, don't rely on the government when people like we need less government.
They killed Nikola Tesla and they took all of his shit
Ooh,
from his fucking New York hotel room when he died.
is that a weekday weird for sure?
It should be.
Right, we could definitely talk about that because I know a bunch of information about Nikola Tesla, but I don't know a lot.
Like, look at cars, right?
Yeah.
Back in like the 30s,
Oh.
they had like the steam powered engine that just ran on water.
Well, think about what I showed you, and I think I posted it to our Instagram thing where they had the car, the extra wheel,
Yeah.
like where it came down in the back
Mhm.
and then it kind of like slid you in.
Mhm.
Like we wouldn't have to parallel park. You just get right on side of it and it slides you right in.
Sure, I get that.
Like there is a lot of cool inventions, and I do think it's correct. Like, and this is, I hope this opens up a lot of people's eyes to say like not to rely on different governments, because the government definitely lies to you. The government definitely withholds information from you and will probably take what they can from you,
Mm-hmm.
During this kind of crisis and play on your fears. And then, 3-4 weeks later say like, oh, well, you should have been wearing masks this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, all right, thanks,
well,
man.
like Nancy Pelosi, right, came out the other day and said back in January that they knew about this. Like she did. And she was like, well, it was going to happen regardless.
Yeah.
You got to be shitting me.
I don't think we should trust these people, but we elect them every 4 years, every 2 years, and
she needs to go.
I mean, there's a
Fuck,
lot of people
dude.
that needs to go. Like even
There
our own
is.
governor. Like
There
I'm
is.
just fed up with, just the response.
Well, same with New York's governor, too. Not to get political, but fuck, man.
Oh, you're getting political.
They told him back in 2015 that they needed to stockpile masks and other things because of either a pandemic or a terrorist attack, and he didn't do it. Now he's blaming the federal government that they're not helping him enough.
That's an interesting thing.
Like,
If you
fuck,
do watch
man.
this, I would recommend anybody, if they haven't, read Plato's Rhetoric and then just listen to how these politicians speak, because they're very good at diverting, like, all right, my mistake, I didn't do that. Well, this person's not helping us. That's why, and they really get people on their side because they say like, oh, I'm doing all this for you. See? Oh, but they're not giving what we need. Like they're holding that back from us. Like, but they're also not giving us any information that is helpful or useful
No.
during a lot of this, It's always like, all right, here's the numbers. And it's, all right, what is that going to do? Like tell it, instead of waiting, and it's almost like they're reactionary. It's like, all right, we're going to shut this down and then we're not going to do this. All right, then now we're going to shut everything down. Oh, we're not going to shut everything down. We're going to shut down 50%. Now next week, we're going to shut down 75%. And it's like, what are you doing? And that's what makes me look about like any of these programs. Like you're going to give Robert Bigelow $22 million to research what?
A year.
So
Of our taxpayer money for what? They didn't come out with a goddamn thing.
yeah, see, that's why I don't think they are researching anything or learning about the phenomena or anything like that. They really were probably doing some nefarious shit in
Probably.
that, that area. And it just, I think that's what it comes down to. Do I believe in UFOs? Yes. Do I believe maybe that's a hotspot for UFOs? Most likely it is. And then they kind of use that to kind of maybe learn some information or see if they could learn information, from the UFOs. Maybe there was a crash, or maybe there was more to the story that maybe they were living underground. They wanted to kind of like research that.
Yeah.
And they built a base under there to try to get as much information from that technology of alien technology to make it our own. I think that's a very good possibility. I don't know. But I guess that's for another discussion. Maybe we can keep it up on our Patreon page. I just want to say thanks for tuning into today's episode. Keep up with all the weirdness by visiting Nightmare365.com for all of our past shows, contact information, and visit our shop while you're there. Another great way to support our show is by leaving a review anywhere you listen to us. Subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. Like Greg likes to say, hit the bell for notifications. Nope, or don't. And if you really enjoy the show, you want some extra content, you want some more stuff on the Skinwalker Ranch, or maybe some other stuff like John Lang, like one of our biggest YouTube episodes of all time, pretty much so far.
1,300 views.
Yeah, it's crazy. And get more content pertaining to some of these episodes, visit our Patreon page and check out the tiers. We have 4 different tiers, just ranging from a shout out if you want to be a skeptical sidekick like the Dana Scully, we'll give you a shout out, or you could be a Robert Stack, get all of our videos, weekday weirds, extra podcasts, merchandise. We'll always give out, and there is a coupon code on there for continuum merchandise. If you want to buy anything on our shop, there's a coupon code there, as well as exclusive videos that we make here in the studio, extra shows like that. So I just want to say thanks for tuning into today's episode, and until next time,
stay spooky. One 6 6 6 1 population.